One of the pieces that I want you to interact with this week on Canvas is a link to a usability test example where somebody is testing Facebook with a user. So you're going to be able to see a real usability test. So I'm not going to give a whole bunch of extra information in this presentation about what a test looks like because you can just go look at a test. I think that's better than me just trying to tell you what they're like. But I will talk a little bit about just in general how usability tests are conducted and what the planning for them looks like. So the first thing you have to do is set goals. What are you trying to learn? Sure, you want to know if your design is usable, but what do you really care about the most? Do you care if the entire thing is usable, every single little element, or are there certain aspects of your website that people are going to use over and over again that are really important that you might want to spend your time looking at? So you're going to set the goals and select the methods, moderated, unmoderated, for example. You're going to write the test script, so you're going to write what the test needs to be like. You're going to recruit participants. You're going to hold the testing sessions. You test with one participant at a time. Never test with multiple people at the same time, because what will happen is a phenomenon called the spiral of silence, where people just don't feel like they can jump in, right? Somebody says something really smart and they go, oh, I don't think I'll sound that smart. I better keep my comment to myself. Or you might have the opposite where somebody says something really smart and everyone just goes, yeah, same. And you don't end up hearing from everybody as much if you put them together in a test. So you always run the test sessions one user at a time so that they don't have any of that social pressure to say or do certain things based on what other people are doing. After you've done all of the test sessions, you're going to do the data analysis. So you might look through your notes. If you are doing certain types of advanced tests, you might do things like record how long it took people to complete the test or to complete various aspects of the test. And then based all of that, you're going to make recommendations for improvements. So you're going to write a part of the document that says, sorry, I'll show the document that I'm talking about in just a second. You're going to write recommendations to the design team of what they need to change about their design. So let's look at an example. This is an example of a very formal and structured usability test that some of my graduate students made a few years ago. This is a report of their usability test. So they did all the planning, they conducted the sessions, and then they wrote this report. And so you'll see that they described the system they're testing. So they tested this piece of software called Lessonly. They talked about the methods that they used. They wrote out the goals of the test. They identified their participants, which I will say they tested with 5 novice, which means new users, people who had never used the system before, and 5 domain experts, which means people who have used the system or similar systems before. The cool thing about usability testing is that even if you only test with 5 people, you'll uncover the majority of usability issues. So shooting to test with 5 people is a really good goal. I'm going to only have you do 3 this week, again, because you're new to this and you're learning. And I think that's kind of a good middle ground between not having to do 5, so you can really focus on getting those tests done well, but not just having 1 or 2 where they might just say some of the same things. They then wrote their procedures. There's many different ways to write a usability test. The test itself can be made up of all kinds of different questions and ways of testing. The one we're going to use in this class is a task-based test, which means that you give the participants tasks one at a time to see if they can do them. And again, you're watching an example of that this week, so you can go watch that example and you'll see they even label when each task starts and ends. So in this particular test that we're looking at a report for, they created tasks and then they had their participants one at a time try to do each task, again, one at a time. So you would read the task to the participant, they would try to do it, and you would see if they could do it. And then they came up with some results. They measured a lot of different things, success ratings. I think they measured time on task, like how long it took people. You do not need to do any of that for this assignment. You're just going to use some observations and give me sort of a written overview of what you found. You don't need to do any of this charting, that kind of stuff. And then you'll see after they post all of the results for their tasks, they also use 10 tasks. You're only going to use 4, 1 that I've pre-written for you and 3 that you're going to write for yourself. And then you can see that they kind of wrote about all the problems that they found. And then at the end, and this document that I'm looking at is also available in Canvas. You can see at the end, they wrote some recommendations for what people, what the designers of Lessonly should do to make this more usable. So you can read this example. Obviously, I don't expect you to write something this, it's ginormous, something this like specific. This is 55 pages. I've given you an example this week of what your assignment might look like, but I did want you just to see what a test is like, because I think it's helpful when you're doing any kind of test, whether it's a really super formal one like this, where you have to do all these different steps and really pay attention to every detail of what the user is doing, or an informal one like you're going to do, where you're just going to get 3 people, one at a time, to try to do a few tasks on your site. They're going to give you feedback and talk to you about what they're doing. That's very informal. I don't need you to measure things with minutes, how long it took people to do things, success ratings, like that's above and beyond what we need to know for this class. But I do want you just to kind of have a little bit of an experience testing with users and seeing how that goes and seeing what it helps you uncover about the usability of your website.